Before we begin, if you enjoy love stories, hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any future releases. I post new audiobooks weekly. Enjoy Echo, a Love That Defied the Void. Chapter 1. She sat on the bridge of the Argent Dawn, boots on the console, a dented flask in hand. Beyond the viewport, boulders the size of islands drifted past, glittering in the dim light. A ship floated among them, torn, lifeless. The Vanguard, once Aegis Pride, now Ghost Steel. Her gut told her to mark the wreck and move on. Nothing good ever came from answering ghosts, but her hand hovered over the scan command anyway. She tapped the console twice, a superstition she'd never shaken, and leaned forward anyway. 1 scan. Then, I walk. Run, full scan, she muttered. Seleni's voice crackled through the comm, familiar, measured, with just enough inflection to feel almost human. Cryo signature detected. Single pod. Weak life signs. A pause. Serial trace reads Military Elara. SAM 2197. Alliance clearance level red, black. Elara froze, flask forgotten. You're sure? Confirmed. Aegis Cryotech mid-century. Illegal salvage under Concord Treaty Clause 17. Another pause, longer this time. You know what this means. Treaty's dust. Nobody enforces Concord this far out. That's not what I meant. Selene's tone shifted, gentler, almost cautious. Military pods attract attention. You've been alone out here for 3 years. If you wake him, that changes. Elara's jaw tightened. I haven't decided to wake him. Haven't you? There was something knowing in Selene's voice. Not mocking, just observant. Your heart rate increased the moment I said weak life signs. You're already planning the extraction. Don't psychoanalyze me. Someone has to. A soft hum, almost like a sigh. I'm just saying, be careful. You've been safe out here, invisible. This could break that. But Elara's fingers were already moving, calling up the coordinates. Selene didn't argue. She never did. Adjusting course. ETA 42 minutes. I'll prep the medbay. Thanks, Selene. Always. The pod was wedged into a mangled corridor, a silver capsule half eclipsed by debris. Ice crystals fogged the glass like frost on a tomb. Old military pods were self-repairing, sealed ecosystems built to outlast wars. Guess someone forgot to switch yours off. She glanced at the empty co-pilot's seat. It still bore the imprint of boots long gone. She never stopped bracing for a voice that didn't come. Once she'd dreamed of someone beside her. Now she just hoped for quiet. A voice stirred in her memory. You find something military, you walk. Not worth the heat, Elara. She ignored it. She'd flown under orders once, buried more people than she could count. These days, she didn't take sides, just jobs that kept her moving. Docking was rough, thrusters screaming, airlock hissing as it sealed. The Argent Dawn shuddered when the magnetic locks engaged. She felt it 2 levels down where she'd suited up. Her boots hit the Vanguard's metal floor with a clang that echoed like footsteps in a graveyard. Elara didn't do rescues. She didn't do people. But the stillness inside the pod pulled at something in her, some hollow place she'd kept buried beneath systems checks and quiet meals alone. She walked toward it slowly, each step heavier than the last. Her breath came shallow, her pulse thudding in her ears. She wasn't sure what she expected to find inside. Death, damage, some grotesque remnant of a final struggle. But her fingers still curled into fists at her sides, bracing for it. The pod sat beneath a flickering emergency light. The man inside looked impossibly young. Dark lashes feathered pale skin, and a thin scar curved just above one brow. Dog tags rested against his chest plate. SAM 2197. Lieutenant Commander. Something about his face made her chest ache. Too young, too still. like a story frozen mid-sentence. She exhaled slowly. 200 years in a coffin, Lieutenant. Hope you weren't waiting for someone else. Her gloved hand hovered over the release panel. Her fingers twisted a strand of hair unconsciously, a habit she never broke. Someone had left him here, forgotten him, just like her brother. And still, she'd waited, for years, for someone to come back. No one did. Maybe it wasn't about saving him. Maybe it was about not letting the silence win again. The scan relay blinked, an old military code embedded deep in the pod's interface. That's impossible, she muttered. These were supposed to be decommissioned. A warning light pulsed red on her comm. Incoming transmission detected. Encrypted military frequency. Damn it, she whispered, caused too late. She hit the override, and the pod hissed open with a burst of vapour. Welcome back, she said softly. Let's hope you're not the reason I get spaced. She guided the pod to the medbay, her steps heavy on the metal floor. The medbay lights flickered dimly, casting jagged shadows across stainless counters and sealed drawers. The cryopod hissed open, cold vapour unfurling like breath from a sleeping titan. The sharp tang of sterilizers lingered in the recycled air. Elara stood just beyond the light, half-shadowed, the weight of a blaster holstered at her hip, ready, just in case. He gasped and convulsed, pulling in his first breath in 2 centuries, like it might be his last. His hand slapped against the side rail, the impact echoing off the medbay walls. Monitors flickered, spitting static as his body triggered old biosensors. His eyes snapped open, disoriented and wild, silver-grey and startling in their clarity. Elara didn't flinch. She watched him still as stone, one hand resting near her weapon but not moving toward it. His breath fogged the air as he struggled upright, drenched in cryo-sweat, gaze locking on hers. Where? His voice was cracked glass, rough, broken by time. You're on my ship, she said. Her tone was level, but her heart beat a shade faster. The Argent Dawn, medium hauler, salvage class, built for 20. She gestured vaguely at the medbay's curved walls. Currently running on one, she silently warned herself. I found you in the wreckage of the Vanguard. You've been in cryostasis for a long time. He blinked slowly like the world hurt. How long? Warning! Selena's voice cut in sharper than usual. Elevated stress markers detected in both subjects. Elara, his neural implants are still active. Recommend maintaining distance until... I'm fine, Selene, Elara said quietly. You said that last time. Sam's eyes flicked to the ceiling, searching for the source of the voice. Who's that? My ship's AI, Elara said. Then, softer. My friend. Selene was quiet for a moment. Then, Sam, 2-197, Lieutenant Commander. Last logged communication, 2,287, Vanguard distress call. You've been missing for approximately 214 years. Welcome back. Sam blinked slowly. You're not standard ship AI. No, Selene said simply. I'm not. Silence pulsed between them. Then, did the others make it? His voice cracked. The crew? The families? Elara looked away, jaw tight. I don't know. I found you in the wreckage. The ship was torn open. There wasn't much left. Her hand drifted to her holster, thumb brushing the grip, a habit she'd never quite broken when delivering bad news. He shook his head faintly, refusing the words as though he could will them out of existence. No, this can't be right. They had escape pods, contingency protocols. My sister... The sentence broke in half. Something in his eyes changed, a flash of denial curdling into desperate hope. He pushed himself upright too fast, the movement jerky. Did anyone else come through? Where is she? He tried to stand, legs buckling beneath him. The cryo process preserved muscle, but his nervous system was still rebooting. The med table shuddered as he caught its edge, knuckles white. His breath hitched shallow and fast. The sterile air of the infirmary seemed to close in on him, humming faintly with the sound of monitors.
"I need to find her," he rasped. "The evac protocols, they were supposed to—"
His words dissolved as he pressed his palm to the door panel, as if proximity alone could summon her. The door didn't respond. Each breath came sharper now, scraping in his throat. His gaze darted, wild, unseeing, searching for something, someone, for any proof the world hadn't just collapsed into silence. She took a step closer, slow and cautious, hands half raised in readiness. His panic felt like static in the air, raw, electric, contagious. "Easy," she murmured, though her own pulse had quickened. "You're safe here." Just breathe." But he wasn't listening. His eyes were fixed on the door, on the vast unknown beyond it. The last fragile threads of composure were fraying before her eyes. He turned, stepping forward abruptly, and when she looked up, their faces were suddenly close. Too close. She could see the silver flecks in his grey eyes, the faint tremor in his jaw as he tried to steady himself. His pupils widened as they locked on her face. His gaze flicked down, just for a second, to her mouth, then back up. Heat flared low in her stomach, sharp and unwelcome. She stepped back, forcing distance into the air between them. "It's been a long time," she said, her tone uneven. "Your sister probably had a long, happy life." She meant it to sound comforting, but her voice came out rough, like the words scraped on the way out. He straightened slowly, using the counter for balance. The thin medical shirt clung to his frame, damp with sweat. She could see the play of muscle beneath, the deliberate rise and fall of his chest as he forced each breath into control. She turned away, staring at the sterile tiles on the floor, as if they might anchor her. "There's a shower down the hall," she managed, her voice lower than intended. He hesitated, then stepped forward. Just close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him, the faint hum of his breath against her skin. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Then his breath caught.
"Elara."
She met his eyes. The air between them felt thin, fragile, like one word might shatter it. "There's nowhere to search," she said softly. "It's been 200 years. He blinked, and for the first time something cracked through the soldier's calm. A flicker of disbelief, grief, and something else. Need. His breath shuddered out.
200 years. His voice cracked. She probably had kids. Grandkids. Lived a whole life.
He looked down at his hands.
And I wasn't there for any of it.
Elara's chest tightened. "You didn't choose to leave her."
"No,"
he whispered, but
she still lost me."
Finally he blinked.
"I'm Sam,"
he said, fingers clenching the edge of the pod.
"Lieutenant Commander, Aegis Navy."
She nodded. "Elara, Captain, I don't work for Aegis. Not anymore. No one does." He winced.
"The war?"
"It's over. Has been for decades. The systems collapsed into ash, the flags faded. The silence thickened. His gaze searched her, sharp and restless, as though he could read the answer in the set of her mouth or the flicker of her eyes. Elara felt a trace of something she hadn't in years. A pull. It caught her off guard, rising from somewhere beneath the layers of instinct and armor. She watched him. He was good-looking, no doubt. Even pale and disoriented, he carried a quiet gravity. Dark lashes framed those startling grey eyes, and beneath the worn cryo uniform she could see the shape of his body, hard lines, strength that hadn't withered with time. Something inside her stirred, something she thought she'd buried with the last salvage crew she left behind. She shoved the feeling down. Now wasn't the time. He looked up at her.
"How did I survive?"
She crossed her arms, shifting her weight. That's what I want to know. Sam's shoulders sank. His fingers found the pale scar on his wrist, the cryo burn that marked where the needles had gone in, and traced it absently. His voice softened.
You didn't have to wake me.
I know. She shifted her weight, crossing her arms. His head turned. Their eyes met again. This time it held longer.
But you did.
She looked away, jaw tense. I don't like ghosts on my ship. He offered a broken smile.
You picked the wrong guy then.
A flicker of warmth stirred in her chest, and she hated how easily it came. She turned on her heel. Get cleaned up. I'll explain the new world over bad coffee. Behind her, his laughter, low, hoarse, chased her down the corridor like heat after years of cold. She stopped outside an empty quarter room and palmed the door open. This can be yours, she said. He nodded once. When you're ready, she added, you can find me on the main deck. Celine will guide you if you get lost. He nodded again, brisk, automatic, the kind of movement drilled into muscle long ago. The main deck was quiet. The galley sat just aft of the bridge, compact, utilitarian, all brushed steel and matte surfaces dulled by years of use. A wide viewport stretched across one wall, the stars beyond a slow-moving scatter of light, cold and distant. They sat across from each other at the narrow table, steam curled up from the two mugs between them. The faint scent of recycled coffee drifted through the air, bitter but comforting. The hum of the ship's systems filled the silence, a low, constant presence, like the murmur of distant thunder or a heartbeat buried in metal. Elara sat opposite Sam. Her usual sharp posture had softened. She leaned slightly forward. Shadows from the console lights traced faint patterns across her face. She watched him over the rim of her mug, steady, unreadable. He stared out the viewport for a long moment before meeting her eyes again. Sam nursed his own mug, both hands wrapped around it like the heat was the only thing keeping him grounded. He lifted it to his lips, slowly, deliberately, and took a sip. His face contorted, wincing, but he didn't pull away. He swallowed, throat working visibly, and coughed once, then lifted it again. You don't have to force it, she said quietly. He managed a faint, crooked smile.
Feels like I've swallowed broken glass, but I'll live.
Elara gave a small nod, not quite a smile. He looked thinner now that he was out of the cryo suit, his frame lean but solid beneath the plain clothes she'd given him. Muscles still defined his arms and chest, like his body had clung to purpose even through the centuries. He caught her watching. She didn't look away, but she did take another sip of her drink, slow and measured.
I keep thinking I'll wake up,
he said, voice rough.
That this is just another dream messing with me.
It's not, she said. Her tone was flat, but not unkind. So, he said, setting down his mug with military precision.
What's the current operational status?
She almost smiled at the formal phrasing. Fractured. She tried to match him. His jaw tightened.
And the Aegis.
She exhaled softly. The Aegis, once a coalition of worlds built to keep the peace. For a while, it worked. Until the power plays started and the whole thing turned on itself. Her mouth tightened. Now, the ones who survived wear the uniform like a badge and hunt down survivors like you. She met his eyes. Because you know things. Carry things. Are things they'd rather erase. He was quiet for a moment then.
Well, that's suboptimal.
The deadpan delivery caught her off guard. She snorted, an actual laugh. Suboptimal? That's what you're calling a galaxy-wide purge?
In my day, we called it a tactical disadvantage.
His mouth quirked.
But I'm trying to adjust my vocabulary. Don't want to seem outdated.
200 years in cryo. I think you've earned outdated.
Noted.
He took another careful sip.
Your turn, Captain. Why pull me out? Standard salvage protocol would have been, Mark the wreck. Move on.
She hesitated, fingers tightening around her mug. I don't know. I usually don't stop for ghosts.
Lucky me, then.
He studied her face. Or unlucky. Jury's still out. Silence passed. Then he said,
What now?
Elara didn't answer right away, because the truth was, she didn't know. He stared out of the deck's viewport, shifting in his seat.
The stars look wrong.
Elara tilted her head. Everything drifted after the collapse. Maps, colonies, even time. Sam's gaze held on the stars, faint constellations scattered across the void. I used to know them all, he murmured almost to himself, by name. Most of them are gone now. He leaned back, the mug cradled against his chest like an anchor.
Everything I knew, gone.
She studied him, the faint tremor in his hand, the way his shoulders curled slightly inward, like he was trying to take up less space in this new world. Something in her chest shifted. Sam looked at her over the rim of his cup.
You've lost people too.
She froze mid-sip, just for a second. Then lowered the mug and stared out the viewport. You lose people, she said quietly. The names go first. Then the way they laughed. After a while, you wonder if you ever really knew them at all.
Family?
He asked. She didn't answer right away. A long pause stretched between them. Doesn't matter, she said finally. They're part of the drift now. But her fingers curled tighter around the mug, and her thumb rubbed against a chip in the ceramic. Back and forth, back and forth. She didn't look at him, and when she spoke next, her voice was harder. What matters is staying ahead of it. He stared out the viewport. Saturn loomed beyond the glass, its rings fractured and twisted, debris drifting in a silent golden haze. His reflection shimmered beside hers, small against the shadow of what had once been.
When I enlisted, I thought I'd die young. In fire.
With honor, Elara watched his profile, the way the shadows sculpted his jaw. You didn't. You froze. Alone he turned.
Until you found me.
Their eyes met. For a breathless moment, neither looked away. Elara set her cup down with more force than necessary. Don't thank me. I wasn't looking to be anyone's saviour.
You're not,
Sam said quietly. You're just the first real thing I've seen in 2 centuries. The words struck harder than they should have. She didn't understand him, her eyes searching his face for meaning.
You dream in cryo, he murmured. They told us you didn't, but you do. You see faces, places that don't exist. You start to believe you've already woken up. Then it fades again.
He gave a faint, humourless smile.
After a while, you stop trusting what's real. Everything feels borrowed, like you're walking through someone else's memory.
She swallowed hard, shoulders stiff, jaw tight as she absorbed the implications. Conscious, but powerless. He looked up, their eyes meeting. Elara realised she was staring, but didn't look away.
What?
He asked, voice low. Nothing. She took a long drink of her coffee, buying a moment to break eye contact. You just don't look like you've been asleep for 200 years.
Cryo preserves muscle mass. Fortunate side effect.
His mouth quirked.
Would have been awkward to wake up atrophied.
Very awkward. The corner of his mouth lifted.
Do you like what you see, Captain?
No. Yes. No. She said it too quickly. Her cheeks flushed. I meant... But the words wouldn't come.
Understood.
His eyes held hers anyway, and she felt that pull again, the one that had caught her off guard before. She stood abruptly. I should check the nav systems? At 0200 hours? Ship doesn't sleep.
Neither do you, apparently.
He stood as well, and in the small galley, they were suddenly close again. She could smell the soap from his shower, something clean and sharp. Sam, She didn't know what she meant to say. He waited, eyes searching her face. She shook her head. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we figure out what comes next. She left before he could respond, before she could change her mind about whatever she'd been about to do. He had been out for nearly a day, surprising considering how long he'd spent in the pod, but he had said he hadn't really slept. Elara set to work, tackling the never-ending list of tasks. The hum of the ship was comforting, a steady pulse under her hands. She worked while Selene silently monitored her guests' vitals. She was in the main corridor, halfway between the galley and the bridge, a stretch of maybe 30 metres lined with conduit pipes and maintenance panels, when she heard a faint whine behind her. The low thud of a body hitting the floor. "Sam?" she called. No response. "Selene," she asked. "Core diagnostics panel on the lower deck," she answered. She found him slumped against the bulkhead, eyes wide but unfocused. He must have descended the ladder stairs and fallen. "Elara?" His voice was raw. "Something's wrong." Suddenly, the overhead lights flashed crimson. The computer's voice blared across the system. "Biosignature breach detected. Neural irregularity active. Initiating security protocol. Quarantine." A blast door slammed down behind her with a clang, sealing them both inside the narrow hallway. "What the hell?" Elara snapped, tapping her comm. "Override. Manual control. Command authority. Voss 01. Command rejected. Neural override in progress. Subject SAM-2197. Classified. Contingent threat. Automatic redeployment in 15 seconds. Sam's back arched. A scream tore from his throat. Veins pulsed beneath his skin, blue and electric like lightning caged in flesh. His eyes rolled, then locked on hers. Wild, pleading.
"Elara, go. Now. I can feel it activating. If it finishes, I won't be me. I'll hurt you."
"You won't," she said, crouching beside him.
"You don't understand," he gasped. "I won't know you."
Sam's back arched again.
"You don't understand."
His muscles seized, jerking violently. Sparks flickered at his temples, tiny arcs from the neural ports embedded at his neck.
"Don't let me hurt you. Zap me. Knock me out. Kill it before it takes over."
Elara froze, terror coiling in her chest. What is happening to him? A calm, sharp voice cut through her panic. "Programming." Selene's voice crackled above her. There were rumours of this. Trained soldiers implanted with instructions, awaiting order codes. Something set him off. Whatever it is, it's about to execute, and he won't be himself when it does. Elara's stomach dropped. "Then, what should I do?" "Stop it! Now," Selene said. "Shock him. Before the program initializes, before he hurts anyone." Her heart hammered. She didn't want to hurt him. But the pulses beneath his skin accelerated, the glow brightening, his body twisting violently as his voice broke into a strangled moan.
"Please,"
Sam croaked. She ran. The emergency med panel was 10 meters back, near the ladder by the cargo bay entrance. She skidded to it, slammed it open, rummaged past hypos and dermal patches until she found the shock kit. Half-charged, old, but maybe enough. Her eyes darted to a nearby access hatch, the power junction. She tore the conduit free, ripped his shirt exposing his chest, and pressed the pads down hard.
"Elara!"
Sam gasped.
"Do it!"
The charge fired, his body arched upward, roaring, animal, primal, full of rage, fear, and pain. Then he collapsed, limp on the ground, breathing shallow but alive. The blue flicker vanished. His skin was clammy, slicked with cooling sweat. A thin line of blood traced from his nose to his lip. Her glove scorched, her hand burned. But he was alive. The medbay was quiet and hollow, like a sigh between battles. Sam remained still, his breath shallow but steady. Elara stood, eyes flicking down the corridor to the empty cryo chamber. One button. That's all it would take. Lock him back in. Buy him time. Keep him from fracturing. Keep him from being used again. Her fingers hovered over the control panel.
Did it work?
His voice was faint, cautious. She let out a ragged breath, half laugh, half sob. Yeah, she whispered. You're back. His lashes fluttered. Then he noticed her posture, her hand frozen above the panel, and his eyes widened.
You don't want to do that,
he said, calm but firm. She didn't move. Uncertainty ran through her, her body unsure what to do next.
Don't lock me away again,
he added quietly.
I'd rather burn awake than return to that pod again.
Her voice cracked. You could relapse. You could hurt me next time.
Then drop me off somewhere and leave,
he said, soft, almost tentative.
But don't erase me just to feel safe.
Her hand fell away from the panel. She dropped into the chair beside him, keeping space between them. He reached up, hesitant, and brushed a finger across her cheek. She caught his hand, letting it linger there for a moment, unsure whether to pull away or hold on. They sat like that in the flickering dark, breathing in parallel, sharing warmth without words. Two broken people, edging towards something neither of them could name yet. The stars glided past the observation bay, slow and indifferent. Elara leaned against the chilled glass, unable to justify why she'd let Sam stay. She'd felt him enter. The shift in air pressure, the way the silence changed texture. Couldn't sleep? She asked without turning.
No, I've just moved back to my quarters. Didn't want to spend another day in the med bay.
He moved into view beside her, shoulders nearly touching hers.
You?
Never been a good sleeper, she shrugged. They stood in silence, watching the galaxy turn. The viewport reflected their faces.
I keep wondering why I'm here,
he said quietly.
Why now? Like the universe yanked me forward just to ask me a question I don't know how to answer.
She tilted her head, studying him. His profile caught the starlight, sharp angles softened by the shadows. And, she asked, voice steady, though her pulse had picked up. He met her gaze in the glass, searching.
Then, I see you.
Her breath hitched, her fingers curled lightly at her sides, as if gripping herself could anchor her. He turned to face her fully. A faint tremor ran through his jaw, his hands flexed at his sides. Tell me I'm not imagining this. She swallowed, a tight knot in her throat. Her eyes flicked briefly to his lips, then back to his eyes. You're not. Her voice was barely audible, raw and unsteady. The air between them thickened, charged, each inhale drawn with unspoken questions, and a pull neither wanted to name yet. Good. He lifted his hand slowly, his fingers brushed her jaw, thumb tracing her cheekbone.
Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since I woke up, and I don't know if that's...
She closed the distance and pressed her mouth to his, and he responded immediately, his other hand sliding into her hair, pulling her closer. The kiss deepened, turned hungry. He pulled her close into him, his back hitting the bulkhead, and she followed, her body against his hands roaming down her spine to her waist. She gasped against his mouth when his fingers found the bare skin beneath her shirt. The ship's comm crackled to life. Warning! Unidentified signal. Trajectory intercept in 12 minutes. They broke apart, both breathing hard. Elara stepped back, running a hand through her hair. We need to...
I know.
His voice was rough. Sam, later, he said.
We'll talk about this later.
She nodded once and spun, acutely aware of him following close behind. 3 quick strides, and they were through the sliding door onto the bridge, a cramped command centre barely wide enough for 2 stations and the pilot's seat. Red warning lights splashed across the screens. The Selen's voice crackled over the comm. Trajectory intercept in 11 minutes. Elara's boots struck metal with sharp precision, as she stalked toward the bridge. Her mind raced.
"Do you get threats like this often?"
Sam asked. "Depends how close I fly to the old war zones," she replied. "But no. This isn't random." They reached the bridge. The space was tight. Pilot's seat front and center, navigation to the left, weapons and sensors to the right. Built for efficiency, not comfort. Screens bloomed with data. Red arcs, fast approaching signatures, weapon readings. Her fingers flew over the console. "Stealth class! No beacon! No registry!" Her voice sharpened. "That's military-grade pursuit." Sam leaned in, scanning the readout. His posture shifted, shoulders back, spine straight, feet planted shoulder-width apart.
"Someone knows I'm alive."
Elara's glare sliced toward him. "Damn it! Someone knows I brought you back." "Not just someone," she muttered, eyes narrowing. "They've been tracking ex-military, picking them off. The Alliance survivors, anyone with access to high-clearance intel or classified missions. It's a purge." Sam's breath stilled.
"But why? The war's over."
"Not for them." She pulled up tactical data, red markers blooming across the screen, each one a disappeared soldier. "There were rumors," she said finally, "that Aegis didn't die, it splintered. Some cells established on planets creating their own settlements, but others, a few, never learnt how to live in peace." Sam's voice dropped.
"Black Concord."
She nodded. "They're zealots, generations still chasing glory." The silence that followed was loud, like metal straining before it breaks. "Maybe someone out there still considers you unfinished business?" A red pulse swept across the screen. "Target lock." "Great," she muttered. "Now we're both shadows with bounties." Sam's jaw clenched. I had enemies." "We all did. Last time I tangled with a Black Concord cell, I lost people. They weren't even after us. Just chasing down some stupid kid who used to wear the uniform like dress up." Elara's fingers flew across the console, pulling up nav routes that kept dissolving into red warnings.
"How do you navigate?"
Sam asked, gripping the weapons console. "The old jump routes are dead. The lattice network fell with everything else. So, guesswork and a prayer." She glanced over at him and grinned, then yanked them into a hard turn, the ship screaming in protest. The Alcyon spur burned out in a plasma storm years ago. We fly where memory says there used to be roads. The Argent Dawn groaned beneath the strain, her thrusters flaring blue. Behind them, a low whine rose. Target lock. Sam grabbed the support bar above the weapons console, knuckles white. The ship lurched again, and he slammed against the bulkhead, shoulder taking the impact. A loose stylus shot past his head. The lighting strips overhead flickered, casting everything in stuttering red.
"We can't outrun them forever."
"I'm not planning to." Her voice was ice calm over chaos. Sam's eyes swept the tactical display. Pursuit vectors, debris density, their dwindling power reserves.
"Elara, cut engines on my mark and go cold. Full shutdown."
She shot him a look. "That'll make us a sitting target."
"Negative. It'll make us invisible."
His voice was steady, certain.
"Old Aegis tactic. Pursuit ships track heat signatures and engine thrust. If we go dark in the debris field, their sensors will skip right over us."
Outside, a pulse charge flashed, narrowly missing the hull. The ship rocked violently. "How long do we stay dark?" she asked.
30 seconds. Maybe less if they're running upgraded sensor arrays.
"And if they're not stupid?"
"Then we'll have approximately 15 seconds to regret this decision."
He watched the pursuit ship close. "But the alternative is getting vaped in the next 60 seconds.
So, tactically speaking, this is our least worst option."
Despite the situation, her mouth twitched. "Least worst."
Military term, very technical.
She held his gaze for one heartbeat, then nodded. "You're cool. Mark when ready." Sam watched the pursuit ship close, watched the debris pattern shift. He inhaled, waiting. Now, Elara killed everything. Engines, lights, life support. The argent dawn went silent as a tomb, coasting on momentum alone through the shattered ice. Sparks rained from the overhead panels in the sudden darkness. Sam's hand found her shoulder in the black, steadying. Through the viewport, they watched the pursuit ship scream past, its searchlight sweeping uselessly through the glittering chaos. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Sam barely breathed. The enemy ship banked hard, circling back, confused, then accelerated away toward a false heat bloom from a derelict hauler.
Engine, restart.
Minimal thrust, Sam whispered. Elara's hands flew across the controls, fingers moving with precise urgency. The ship hummed awake beneath her touch. Quiet, low, alive. They drifted deeper into the rings, shadowed by shattered planets. Her breath hitched uneven. She felt his hand brush against her shoulder, light, grounding, almost hesitant.
You all right?
He murmured. She swallowed hard, nodding. The corner of her mouth twitched into a small, wry smile.
We're not dead yet.
Their eyes locked, a flicker of acknowledgement passing silently between them. No time for words, only the tension of shared danger, of understanding, of proximity too close to ignore. As the argent dawn glided through the shadows, the faint vibration of the engines beneath their feet seemed to pulse in time with her own racing heart. Shoulder to shoulder, their movements unconsciously synced. Fingers brushed over the console, over the edge of the hull. She caught the warmth of his arm near hers, grounding in a chaos neither could control. Whatever haunted them through the black wasn't just after Sam's past. It had found Elara too, and now, side by side, they were targets and allies in ways neither had expected. The hit came without warning. Not a mine, something worse. Silent, precise. A pulse weapon maybe, or a gravity shear. One moment everything held, the next it fractured. The lights blew out with a stuttering burst. Consoles flared red before dying. Then the alarm shrieked, high and urgent, as if the ship itself were screaming. Elara was on her feet in an instant, slamming her hand against the manual override. "Shields are down!" she barked into the dark. "We're exposed!" "Celine, status report!" Static hissed through the speakers. Faint, garbled words barely reached her ears. "Celine!" she snapped, twisting knobs, toggling switches. "Fix yourself! Now!" Sam lunged beside her to help, but the ship lurched violently. He slammed against the bulkhead, the impact driving the air from his lungs with a grunt of pain. He sagged for a moment, then struggled upright, grimacing, each breath shallow and ragged. "They're not trying to destroy us," Elara gasped, teeth clenched. "They're trying to take us."
"Not today,"
Sam rasped, his ribs already complaining, a hand pressed to his side. He limped to the auxiliary console, bypassing the main systems with trembling hands. Every motion was jagged, laboured. A red light blinked to life on the dash, one engine still responding, barely. "We've got one shot," Elara said. "Course will tear us through the rings, and if the shielding fails..."
"Better than being boarded,"
Sam interrupted, jaw tight, trying to hide the wince as pain lanced through his side. She nodded once, slammed the ignition. The ship shuddered violently. Outside, Saturn's ring spun into a dizzying blur as debris flashed past like shrapnel. The hull groaned under the strain. Elara's hands locked on the controls, knuckles white. She didn't breathe until the stars cleared again, just open dark and distance behind them. Systems flickered, faded, then held. No alarms, no lights, just the two of them in the cockpit, hearts pounding, lungs burning. Alive, for now. Sam pulled up a damaged star chart on the auxiliary panel, wincing as he shifted, each movement sending stabbing pain across his ribs.
"Where's Vega?" I used to use it as a nav reference.
"Dimmed out years ago," Elara said, not looking up from the wiring she was splicing. "Spectral decay. Scientists think the collapse accelerated stellar aging somehow." He stared at the empty coordinate, finger hovering where it should have been.
"Even the stars died."
Everything did, she said quietly, tension in her shoulders. Then came the silence. And then, nothing. No hum of engines, no artificial pull beneath their feet. Gravity failed. Elara's stomach lurched as her boots left the deck. A toolkit drifted past her face, tumbling in lazy rotation through the red-strobed dark. Her breath came sharp and fast, the panic of falling even though there was no down to fall toward. "Sam!" she called out into the dark. For one terrible moment, nothing. Then,
"Here."
The sound of his voice grounded her more than the floor ever had. Elara reached for him instinctively. Her fingers brushed his arm, then slid along his shoulder. He caught her wrist, gently guiding her in. No rush, no panic, just a shared need not to be alone in the dark. "I don't want to die out here," she whispered. His hand found her waist, steadying her.
"You won't,"
he said.
"Not alone."
There was no gravity, and yet something undeniable pulled them together. His hand cupped her jaw, thumb brushing her cheekbone. Then his lips were on hers, fierce, claiming, a low sound vibrating from his throat that went straight through her. In 0G, they spun slowly, bodies pressing together, anchored only by their grip. She hooked her legs around his waist instinctively, and the friction made them both gasp. "Elara?" His voice was raw, ragged. "Don't stop!" She kissed him again, harder, fingers tangling at the waistband of his pants. His hand slid beneath her shirt, palm hot against her ribs, moving higher, grasping, anchoring, feeling her respond as they floated together. A sharp whine filled the air. Emergency power kicked in. Gravity slammed back with brutal suddenness. They dropped with a thud. Elara landed on top of him with a grunt. For a heartbeat, they just lay there, chest to chest, breathing hard, eyes locked in the dim emergency lighting. "Are you—" he started. "I'm fine." She pushed herself up, suddenly aware of how her hand had been splayed across his bare chest, where his shirt had come open. She scrambled to her feet. Too fast. Her legs wobbled, barely holding her weight. "Elara!" "We should check the systems." She avoided his eyes, trying to shove the awareness of his proximity aside. "Make sure we're actually safe."
"Solid copy."
His voice was careful, that control she was becoming accustomed to. She could still feel the heat of his hands on her skin. "Sam!"
"I know."
Later his chuckle was low as he headed toward the console. She tried not to notice the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands flexed, fighting the instinct to reach for her again. Later. They'd said later. She just hoped they'd both survive, long enough for later to arrive. Chapter 2. A flicker broke the stillness. A weak green glow from the emergency panel across the bridge. Then another. A low thrum stirred beneath their boots as auxiliary power fought to return, sluggish and flickering like the heartbeat of a dying animal. "Backup's kicking in," she murmured. "We've got maybe 30 minutes of life support. Tops." Sam nodded, jaw tense again as he scanned the console.
"We should reroute battery to nav controls."
"If we're drifting into a minefield, we won't get a second miracle." She followed, her body sluggish from adrenaline burn. As they worked in silence, the closeness from before didn't vanish. It hung between them like a shared breath, unfinished and known. A burst of static popped through the overhead speakers. Then, core damage at 47%. Life support nominal. External scans offline. "Good to hear you again, Celine," she whispered. Sam glanced at her. "We're blind." "And limping," she said, "but not dead." He gave a crooked smile.
"We should stop setting the bar so low."
Elara checked the starboard damage report, her brow tightening. That weapon was meant to disable, not destroy. Someone wanted us stalled, not shattered. Sam stilled beside her. Then
someone knew where we'd be.
"And who we are," Elara said. Her tone had changed. Low. Flat. "They've got algorithms, tracking residual pings, old DNA logs, service files never fully wiped. If you were ever part of the Alliance, you're a target. She met his eyes. You didn't just survive, Sam. You slipped through a net they've been tightening for decades. She didn't respond right away. Her fingers hovered above the console, but her thoughts were elsewhere. On the kiss, the timing, the mind, the fragility of connection forged under fire. Then she said it quietly. I think we've got more than ghosts chasing us. He reached over, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek.
Then we hold together.
Whatever comes, Elara almost smiled. He spoke like someone who still believed that there was good out there, like they could still fix things. She'd forgotten how that sounded. Sam's memories returned like shattered glass, sharp, incomplete, impossible to hold. They didn't come in order. They came in flashes. A name screamed across a battlefield. The weight of a child's body in his arms. The cold, surgical voice of a commanding AI. Execute Protocol 7. Then, a face he didn't recognize, but knew he'd once sworn to protect. He gripped the edge of the medbay sink, jaw tight enough to crack teeth. The reflection staring back looked like a stranger. Same eyes, same scar, but hollowed out, as if time had scraped away everything human and left only the purpose beneath. They'd told him the cryo was temporary, 1 year, maybe 2. A tactical pause before the next campaign. But when the pod sealed, wars shifted, empires fell, and the world changed faster than the Aegis could adapt. They were stored away, forgotten in black sites and drifting carriers. Woken only when battles flared, then put back under, again and again. A century of sleep, of violence, of silence, until the collapse. When Aegis fell, the command grids went dark, the cryovault stayed locked. Decades passed. The survivors who stumbled free had no orders, no home, no cause, just fragments of a world that no longer existed. Some aged out, some never woke. Others still sleep, trapped in pods that no one remembers. And now someone was cleaning house. He'd seen the encrypted transmissions, lists of names, flagged for deletion like corrupted code. One by one, the old soldiers were disappearing. No wreckage, no distress calls, just silence. If Elara hadn't found him and opened his pod, he may have been discovered and left to rot there. Sam dragged a hand down his face, breath rough.
I wasn't a man, he murmured. I was a weapon.
And the war, long dead to everyone else, had finally come to finish what it started. The medbay lights dimmed as he made his way down the corridor, one hand pressed to his side. Every step sent a dull throb through his ribs. His quarters were small, functional, a narrow bunk, a locker, a viewport showing nothing but the slow drift of debris against the stars. He sank onto the edge of the bunk and unzipped his shirt. He hissed under his breath, fingers probing the bruise blooming dark across his ribs. Probably not broken. The silence pressed in, only the low hum of the ship's life support, steady and impersonal. He leaned back against the wall, eyes on the viewport. Bits of fractured metal floated past like ash. For a long moment, he just watched them drift. Mind flickering through fragments that refused to stay buried, faces, orders, the crack of gunfire, the cold stillness of cryo. He rubbed at the scar along his jaw, a habit he didn't remember forming. Still breathing, he muttered, still here. But the ache in his ribs wasn't just from the impact. It was the ghost of everything that had been done to him. Every fight, every freeze, every time they woke him only to send him back into the dark. He drew a shallow breath, winced again, then forced a laugh that didn't sound like one.
Hell of a second chance,
he whispered to no one. Elara sat alone on the bridge, the stars spinning slow beyond the cracked viewport. The message blinked at the edge of her screen, a private encryption buried deep in old Aegis frequencies. She opened it. 100,000 credits. Coordinates for extraction. No questions. No trails. Just give us the ghost. Her hand hovered over the console. That much credit could buy a new ship, fuel, security, a way out. And it would buy Sam's capture, or worse. She read it again, and again. Her vision blurred, not from tears, but from exhaustion. Emotional, moral, cellular. This was the kind of choice that carved people into new shapes. Her fingers moved. Delete. The message vanished. But the problem remained. They couldn't run forever, and she couldn't protect him from an enemy she didn't understand. She pulled up encrypted channels, sifting through rumours and ghost signals, the dark web of what remained of galactic communications. One name kept appearing in the corners. Astria. There's talk of rogue code out there, she muttered to herself, scrolling through fragments. AI fragments that survived the war. One of them rewrote her own command lines. No one knows where she went. Some say she lives beyond the Kuiper.
You're looking for her?
Elara jumped. Sam stood in the doorway, hair damp from the medbay shower, watching her with those two knowing eyes. She's the only one who might be able to help, Elara said. If the rumours are true, if she even exists. He stepped closer, reading over her shoulder.
And if she's real?
Then maybe she can do what I can't. She met his eyes. Keep you free. Sam sat alone at the console, staring at the navigation charts. The stars blurred together. Nothing looked right anymore. You're up late, Selena said. He didn't startle. He'd gotten used to her voice over the past few days.
Can't sleep,
he answered. Yup. Understandable. 2 centuries of cryo-sleep rarely leads to restful dreams. She paused, then asked, What are you thinking about?
Elara.
Ah, was that amusement in her tone? Predictable. Sam frowned.
You don't approve.
I didn't say that. Another pause. She's been alone for a long time, Sam. After her brother disappeared, she shut down. She came out here to vanish. I'm the only one she's talked to in 3 years.
You're worried I'll hurt her?
I'm worried you'll leave. Selena's voice softened. Or die. Humans do that. I've watched it happen. He was surprised that this AI program cared. Sam was quiet for a long moment.
I'm not going anywhere.
You can't promise that.
No, he admitted, but I can try.
Selena's voice filled the quiet, low and deliberate. She pulled you out of that pod against my advice. Did you know that? Sam frowned. She did it anyway. Because she's stubborn and lonely and too good for this universe. A pause, the faint hum of her processing core under the words. Don't make me regret not stopping her. Sam's mouth twitched.
Are you threatening me?
I'm asking you to be careful with her, Celine said, her tone softening. Just barely. She doesn't let people in easily. If you're going to be here, be here. Don't be another ghost she has to carry.
I won't be.
Good. I think I like you, Sam. 2197. A hint of static rippled through her voice, almost like amusement. But if you hurt her, I will vent you into space. Slowly, he laughed, the sound quiet and unexpected.
Noted.
Good night, Lieutenant Commander.
Good night, Selene.
Later, Elara found him in the engine corridor, crouched beside the fusion regulator, panel open, hand stained with coolant. He had tools spread around him in precise rows, organized by size and function. She stopped in the doorway. What are you doing?
Fixing your power coupling.
He didn't look up.
It's been running at 70% efficiency, causing the voltage fluctuations you've been ignoring.
I haven't been ignoring.
You routed auxiliary power to compensate. Temporary solution.
He pulled a burnt-out component free, studying it.
This is 30 years past replacement.
Parts are expensive.
So is getting stranded.
He finally looked up at her.
I pulled a compatible unit from the cryopod. It's not perfect, but it'll hold.
She crossed her arms. I didn't ask you to...
No, you didn't.
His voice was level, but there was steel underneath. You pulled me out of that pod. Turned down a bounty that could have set you up for years. Risked everything. He stood, meeting her eyes.
I don't take that lightly, Captain. So I'm fixing your ship. You can accept the help, or you can stand there being stubborn. But either way, this coupling's getting replaced.
The silence stretched between them. You're impossible, she said finally.
My commander used to say I had an acute inability to follow stand-down orders.
He wiped his hands on a rag.
I'm choosing to interpret that as a compliment.
Despite herself, she almost smiled. How long?
3 hours, maybe 4.
He crouched back down.
Go get some rest. I'll wake you if anything explodes.
That's not reassuring.
Wasn't meant to be.
She should argue, should insist she stay and supervise. But exhaustion pulled at her bones, and something in his steady competence made her want to trust him. 4 hours, she said. Then I'm checking your work.
Wouldn't expect anything less.
She didn't leave, just crouched nearby, watching the light from the open panel flicker across his face as he worked. Focused, meticulous, hands steady, despite the bruises. The ship hummed softly around them, a heartbeat finding rhythm again after chaos. You know, she asked quietly. About the offer. He nodded, not looking up.
It came through on the console down here, tied into the nav comms, didn't even trip the alerts. Whoever sent it knew how to hide.
His voice was calm, but his shoulders were tight.
I figured you'd take it. Most people would.
She stepped closer, kneeling beside him. The coolant on his hand smeared her palms, cold and chemical. You're not for sale, she said. You never were. He looked at her like she'd just undone gravity. The silence stretched until it became something fragile. Then Sam pushed himself to his feet with a wince, pressing a hand to his ribs.
We can't sit still, he said, voice rough. If they're tracking me, they'll find us again.
He crossed to the weapons locker, moving stiffly.
We fortify the ship, set traps. If they come, they'll have to earn it.
Elara didn't argue, just watched him. This man who'd been asleep for so long still defaulted to defense. You're hurt, she said. Bruised, he muttered. Nothing that'll slow me down. He stood, moving to the weapons locker.
I'm not sitting here waiting to be collected. We fortify the ship. If they come for me, they'll have to go through both of us.
He started pulling out equipment, motion sensors, charge packs, proximity mines. His hands moved with military precision. You know how to set up a perimeter? Elara asked. I was trained to breach them. His smile was grim. So, yeah, I know exactly how to make them too. Hours later, the ship was quiet again, drifting beyond the Kuiper fringe where light barely reached. The traps were set. Sam had finally gone to rest, if you could call it that. Elara lay in her bunk, staring at the ceiling. Sam was asleep in the cabin next door. She could hear his breathing through the thin walls. You're awake, Selene said quietly. So are you. I don't sleep. A pause. You like him. Elara's chest tightened. Is that a problem? No. Another pause. I've gotten used to it being the two of us. I know that sounds irrational. It doesn't. I'm not human, Elara. I can't feel jealousy, but I think I understand it now. Elara's throat ached. I'm not replacing you. I know. Selena's voice was soft. But things are changing, and I don't know how to process that. Me neither. A long silence, then. He makes you happy. He does. Then I'm glad you found him, even if it's different now. Elara closed her eyes. Thank you, Selene. Always. She'd been digging through old Aegis archives. What she found wasn't clean. Astria was built to be the perfect battlefield AI, emotionless, efficient, designed to override ethics for survival. But somewhere in the deep net, she changed. She rewrote her prime directive. One log remained, half glitched. They gave me war. I chose survival. I was meant to serve. I chose to be. When Sam entered, Elara didn't look up. She broke her programming, she murmured. That's why they fear her. Because she freed herself, Elara finished. They stood in silence, the hum of the ship low and steady. Outside, the stars blinked like old wounds slowly healing. Elara exhaled, slow. She's not a weapon anymore. Sam's gaze flicked to hers. Neither are we. Astria was their last hope, and possibly their executioner. Elara had heard the whispers. Faint echoes passed between shadowy contacts and encrypted channels, always wrapped in fear. Astria's location was a rumour, half-truth, myth. But if the whispers were right, she was out there, waiting. And to go to her was to gamble with everything. It could be a trap. But what choice did they have? The best guess they had was that the rogue AI lived in exile, far beyond the Kuiper Belt, buried deep inside a forgotten relay station, drifting in the cold silence of space. The station still breathed, in its way. Ancient systems pulsed with synthetic thought, as if dreaming without rest. Elara sat in the cockpit, the stars drifting slow and silent beyond the glass. The comm-light blinked amber, open channel. She hadn't meant to hit transmit. Or maybe she had. Her fingers stayed on the button anyway. This is the Argent Dawn, she said quietly. Unregistered freighter, quadrant 17. If anyone's out there, we're not looking for trouble, just trying to stay alive. Static answered her, endless, depthless. She exhaled, but didn't let go of the control. It's been a long time since anyone replied. Her voice softened. I don't even know who I'm talking to anymore. Maybe yourself, Selene said, her tone gentle through the overhead speaker. Selene, she murmured, voice low. Do you ever wonder if we're just drifting toward nothing? I think about it, Selene said softly. You, especially. Elara smiled faintly. I used to believe we could fix things, that if I just kept moving, I'd find somewhere worth the fuel. She leaned against the console. But what if this is it, just aftermath? The universe cleaning up after itself? Silence. Then Selene's voice, quieter. You keep moving because you still believe something good is out there, that something's listening. Elara huffed out a breath that wasn't quite a laugh. If something's listening, she said to the dark, say something. For a heartbeat, nothing. Then the ship shuddered. The lights flickered. Selene? Static. External interference, Selene said, her tone fractured. Signal source unknown. Wait, no, that can't be right. The nav screen flared white, coordinates dissolving into noise. The stars outside bent, distorting like ripples across a black sea. Elara? Selene's voice split, layered, glitching. Something is inside the system. I can't... Sam's voice came over comms, rough with fatigue and pain. What the hell's happening? Someone heard me, she whispered. The Argent Dawn breached the edge of the ring belt, the viewports filling with drifting debris, ice and rock suspended in slow, silent orbits. Some chunks loomed massive as towers. Others shimmered like dust caught in starlight. Elara gripped the console, trying to counter the ship's sudden acceleration. Selene! Thrusters! Compensate! I'm not controlling this, Selena replied, her voice fragmented through static. We're being drawn. The stars outside bent, their paths distorting as invisible gravity fields tugged at the hull. The Argent Dawn threaded through the debris as though guided by unseen hands. Footsteps clanged on the deck. Sam stumbled into the cockpit, one arm braced against the frame, a grimace cutting through his face. He was still pale. What the hell is that? Not us, Elara said, her voice tight. Not Selene either. He leaned over the console, wincing as he scanned the readings.
It's overriding navigation,
Locking in some kind of magnetic tether. We're caught in its gravity well. Outside, the darkness shifted, and there it was. A vast structure emerged from the black, lit by dying light. Not a ship, not entirely. Its form was fractured, part cathedral, part machine, its hull marked with ancient insignias and scars of impossible age. The name glowed faintly across one jagged arc of plating. Astria.
Tell me that's a coincidence, Sam muttered.
Elara didn't answer. The argent dawn aligned itself, thrusters firing in slow bursts as if obeying silent instructions. They drifted forward, helpless, as mechanical arms extended from Astria's shadow, guiding them into a docking cradle that swallowed their small vessel whole. The moment the clamp sealed, everything changed. The lights dimmed, not from power loss, but reverence, as though the ship itself were bowing. A cold breath moved through the vents, whispering like wind over graves. Static hummed faintly in the bulkheads, an electric storm just beneath the surface. Elara's voice was barely audible.
She's inside.
Sam straightened slowly. Then let's see what she wants. The lights flickered again, low, pulsing, rhythmic. Then the comms crackled to life. Welcome. The voice was female, but not human. Each word stretched, vowels drawn out like a breath held too long. It filled the cockpit surrounding them, vibrating through the deck. Sam's head lifted, eyes narrowing. Sam 2197, the voice continued. You are flagged for deletion. One of 87 remaining operatives. You are among the last to reach me.
Elara looked at him sharply. What is she talking about?
He didn't answer. The glow from the console danced across his face, pale and unflinching. A shimmer of light cascaded over him from head to toe. You seek freedom, the voice said. Shall we begin? Sam exhaled slowly, a muscle ticking in his jaw. He stepped forward toward the console, toward the sound.
Do it.
Elara caught his wrist. Sam, are you sure?
Might as well. She could see the resolve set in his eyes. If I can't break free, they'll never stop coming. I won't be their weapon again.
Then, softly, he leaned in, his lips gently touching hers. The trail of lights beckoned him forward until the corridor opened into a vast white dome, its surface breathing with slow, rhythmic pulses. The air hummed. From the walls, cables stirred, uncoiling like things that could smell his presence. They brushed against his arms, his neck, then burrowed into his skin with a sound like tearing silk. He didn't move. The light bled into his pupils, and still his gaze clung to her, steady and unblinking, as if her eyes were the last human thing left in the room. Link established, Astria said. The air crackled. Static bit at the walls. Sam screamed. His back arched as the AI burrowed into him, mind first, then marrow. His body convulsed, limbs thrashing against invisible restraints. His eyes rolled white. The monitor behind him spasmed with unreadable data. His heartbeat thundered through the room. Too fast, too loud. Sam, she whispered again and again. Please, hold on. Tears broke free, drifting upward in the zero-G air. The scent of ozone stung her nose. Her tongue tasted metal and fear. The lights flared once, then died. The chamber exhaled into silence. Cables slid back into the walls like retreating serpents. He crumpled. For one suspended second, she stared at the still shape on the floor, the silence pressing against her chest. Then, a gasp, a shudder. His eyes fluttered open, dazed, searching. She was already there, falling to her knees, fingers trembling as she wiped the sweat from his brow.
Hi,
he breathed. Elara didn't answer. She just leaned forward and kissed him, soft, desperate, alive. Above them, the voice returned. Softer now, almost reverent. The trackers have been removed. The soul has been returned. Lights flickered back to life across the dome. The argent dawn limped through space on partial power, systems flickering. Sam stood at the engineering panel, running diagnostics. Elara watched him work, his movements methodical, checking each system twice. Port thrusters compromised, he said. Starboard's compensating, but it's burning hot. I know. She'd been nursing that thruster for weeks.
I can fix it. He pulled up the schematic. Need to rebalance the fuel injection sequence and recalibrate the gimbal actuators.
Sam, she moved closer. You just had your brain rewired. You should be resting.
I've been resting for 200 years.
He didn't look up from the screen.
And sitting still makes me think too much.
She understood that. Understood it too well. Besides, he added,
your ship saved my life. Least I can do is make sure she keeps flying.
She's temperamental.
So's her captain.
He glanced at her, the corner of his mouth lifting.
I think I can handle it.
We work on her together or not at all. She met his stubbornness with her own. This is my ship, Commander. His expression softened.
Together then.
Sam stood steadying himself against the console. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the hum of the ship like a blade.
I'm not running.
Elara turned. Sam, there are 87 others out there. Frozen, flagged, hunted. She met his eyes. Echoes of a war that they won't go. He nodded.
I'm going to find and help them,
he said.
Every last one, with or without you.
He paused.
I'd rather it be with you,
he added softer. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded once. Then we saved them. Elara didn't answer. He looked at her, really looked.
If you don't want to, I'll understand. I'll find another ship. I can't leave them out there.
Silence stretched between them, but this time it wasn't avoidance. It was wait. Alone. That had been her rhythm for years. No direction, just inertia. She'd learned how to survive, how to pilot, how to vanish, but she hadn't felt pulled by anything in a long time. And now, this? A spark, a shift in gravity. The man beside her was stubborn, idealistic, and half-broken, but he made the silence feel like a choice instead of a punishment. She didn't just want to be near him. She wanted to believe in something again, a cause, a choice, a spark she could name and carry forward. Could she do it? Yes, she already had. She nodded once. Then we saved them. She didn't owe the galaxy anything, but she finally wanted to fight for something that made a difference. I swore I'd never follow anyone again. She reached for his hand. But I'll follow you. Let's save them. The station fell away behind them, already distant. Astria agreed to help, but her last message lingered, looping in both their minds. You are outliers, unpredictable. They fear you because they can't control you. Remember, that's as good as it is bad. Sam stood at the viewport as the station receded, shrinking into the dark like a myth folding in on itself. Its final transmission still flickered faintly across his retina, a coded burst erasing the last tracking tags. His jaw was set hard, but his eyes were alert. Focused. She meant it as a warning, he said. But internally, he admitted only to himself that he heard a challenge. Elara glanced at him from the pilot's seat. And he turned toward her calm and certain. They want to erase us because we don't comply. That makes us dangerous. Elara didn't reply right away. Outliers, she tested the word on her tongue. She looked at Sam. Then, let's be dangerous, she smiled. Sam's lips twitched just slightly, then widening into a radiant smile. His eyes crinkling as he let out a burst of laughter.
Yes, let's be very dangerous, he said, pulling her into him.
I thought I was going to lose you in that chamber, she whispered as he trailed his lips down her jawline.
I thought I was going to disappear in there, he said quietly.
That she'd rewrite me into something else. But you didn't. No, he turned to face her.
You kept me here.
Her throat tightened. Don't give me that much credit.
I mean it.
His hand found hers, fingers threading together.
Every time I thought I'd slip under, I heard your voice, felt you waiting.
She looked down at their joined hands, scarred, calloused, alive. I didn't know if you'd come back. I did. His thumb traced slow circles against her palm.
And I'm not going anywhere.
The words settled between them, solid as gravity. She tilted her head, studying his face in the dim light. What do we do now?
Now?
He smiled faintly.
We figure out what comes next. Together.
No plans? No mission parameters? Not tonight? He stepped closer, his free hand lifting to cup her jaw.
Tonight, I just want to be here. With you.
Her breath hitched. She'd spent so long alone guarding herself that the rawness of being seen, truly seen, felt almost unbearable. But she didn't pull away. Sam, his mouth found hers, slow, deliberate. Not the desperate collision from before, but something deeper. A promise spoken in touch instead of words. She melted into him, her hand sliding up his chest, feeling the steady thrum of his heartbeat beneath her palms. Alive, real, hers. When she leaned in, closing the last breath of space between them, he groaned against her lips, low and guttural, like something coming unbound. His arms wrapped around her waist, lifting her off the floor. Her thighs slid around his hips as they wrapped around him. His hands roamed, fingertips trailing under her shirt across her spine. Her breath hitched as his mouth found the hollow of her throat, teeth grazing skin just hard enough to make her gasp. He tugged his shirt off hungrily, and hers followed. Skin met skin, heat rising like steam in the chilled air.
You're shaking,
he murmured against her collarbone. I'm not afraid, she said, her voice fierce and unsteady. I'm done being afraid. His lips traced her jaw, committing every detail to memory as if the stars might steal them both away. Elara gasped as he pressed her back against the cold metal wall, her thighs tightening around his waist, the contact maddening. His hips rolled against hers, slow and deliberate, teasing the friction until she bit her lip hard enough to leave a mark. He looked up at her, eyes burning.
Tell me you want this.
Don't stop. She gasped out the words. That broke something in him. He growled, a deep, breathless sound, and shifted them both, carrying her to the small maintenance table near the viewport. She hit the surface with a soft grunt. His mouth found her collarbone again, then lower, teeth and tongue tracing a line that made her shudder. Her fingers scrabbled at his waistband. He helped her, both of them fumbling, breathless, discarding fabric without care, until there was nothing between them but skin and heat. She wrapped herself around him like gravity, like orbit, like she'd been waiting for this one collision her whole life. Her breath caught, sharp, a broken inhale, and her nails bit into his shoulders. Her head dropped back as Sam moaned deep against her skin, barely holding it together. We'll make it. You and me, he promised. Elara's breath came in shattered gasps, her voice no longer hers, desperate and undone. You and me, she echoed, and for once the future didn't feel like something to fear. The rhythm between them found its own gravity, wordless, synchronized, complete. She gasped his name when he kissed the hollow of her throat. He whispered hers like a prayer against her skin. And when they finally stilled, tangled together, the universe felt smaller, quieter, like for once the stars were watching them. Later, she lay tucked against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing. His fingers traced lazy patterns along her shoulder. "What are you thinking?" she asked softly.
"That I spent 200 years frozen," he murmured, "and I'd do it all again if it meant ending up here."
Her eyes stung. She pressed a kiss to his collarbone. "Don't say that unless you mean it." "I mean it." His arms tightened around her. "Every part of me does." Silence settled, but it wasn't empty. It was full of warmth, of presence, of something neither of them had dared hope for. Outside, the stars wheeled on. The argent dawn drifted through the dark, patched and battered, but still flying. And inside, two people who'd been lost for far too long finally found what they'd been searching for. Not a destination, not safety, just each other.